Andrew here with Canadian Musician Magazine, and this time it is very clear that we are Canadian Music Week 2014. Speaking with James from Slates, Edmonton-based punk-ish band, punk rock and roll. We'll get to kind of dissecting the sound in a second here, but latest album is called Taiga, recorded with Steve Albini down in Chicago, which I want to start with that, actually. I mean, that's a hell of an experience, I think, for anyone. Did you ever see that letter that Albini wrote to Nirvana?
Yeah. The reissue of In Utero, right?
Bingo. Like, having just seen that not long ago, it was kind of gave people, I think, an insight into his approach, at least at the time, which I wouldn't imagine just based on what he's been releasing lately has changed much. Tell us about the experience and, maybe ultimately why it worked out so well, like that you tapped him for this one.
Well, I've been following the records he's recorded for a long time, like the In Utero, like being a kid and going and buying that on cassette at the mall and just having your mind blown. So, and then Jesus Lizard later, and even like weirder folk records he's made, like everything just has like a really authenticity, I guess. So we really wanted to work on tape, to work without computers and a lot of digital editing and fixing. We wanted to just kind of have a raw, more immediate sound, so we kind of tracked everything live, and he's just the go-to guy for that. Mm-hmm. He's a really kind of hands-off guy, which is good. It can be a little intimidating in the studio, not having that feedback, but it forces you to make decisions and trust yourself and trust your bandmates and stuff. So it was a good experience.
What are some, and whether or not it was introduced, like through the process of working with Steve, or prior leading up to that when you guys were writing and putting things together, but I'd love to get in your perspective. Are there any sonic shifts or like developments, maybe new elements brought in that you see from Prairie Fire's onto Taiga?
Well, there's a huge one because Eric Budd used to play guitar in the band, and he left. He's basically studying kung fu, like. It was like we had a Euro tour booked, and his sifu was like, "You're coming to China to learn how to like do drunken boxing." so he did that instead. Anyway, so he left. I mean, we were on really good terms still. He records all the demos and stuff. But yeah, that's a pretty cool reason to leave a band.
That's fair.
So Steph was playing bass. He switched to guitar, and then we brought Lee in, and so just having totally different musicians in the band, like there's common ties for sure, but the way me and Steph play guitar together, like that interplay is definitely different. And then tonally, we shifted to it's like a little darker, maybe a little bleaker in parts. It was just a group of songs that ended up that way. Mm-hmm. So.
Does that, I think it's inherent in, like you say, the overall tone of the record, but maybe even some of the lyrics. But Taiga, the title, I mean, having now, did you ever read that book, The Tiger?
That's right. Yeah, I have it, but actually, we reread the article that someone had done, and Dallas actually got the book, and we talked a lot about the story. And then, so we were like, we have to write a song about this. So put it together, and then I wanted to do it from the guy who gets eaten by the tiger, from his point of view, and why he was poaching in the first place, like this revenge tale between like man and beast.
Oh, that's cool.
Totally. And then I have the book, but I kind of don't want to read it now because I have a version in my mind of the story, and I don't want to see that I was like hugely inaccurate. So I'm always putting it off, but I will crack it one of these days.
Oh man, it's interesting that you are actually like citing the tiger itself, because I was just going to ask more so about like the geography of the place. Mm-hmm. What's the fella's name that did Grizzly Man and Bad Lieutenant? Yeah, Werner Herzog. That documentary, have you seen that? Life in the Taiga?
Yeah.
Like just that, I don't know, bleak, but authentic and like really down to earth. Like I guess that's kind of definition of salt of the earth. But those are things that I think you could describe when you're talking about Slates music.
Yeah, I mean that's fair for sure. I think a lot of it, you're in Edmonton and it's just like there's just no sun and it's just a never-ending winter. Then you just like everyone just gets like bunkers down into their jam spaces and writes these weird records. So yeah, it's kind of a byproduct of living in Edmonton, I think.
Thank you for taking me. That's exactly what I was going to ask you next. You guys have never shied away. Like you're very proud to be from Edmonton, and it kind of seems like that comes warts and all. I get a similar vibe like when I listen to the Weaker Thans and John K. Sampson's sort of love-hate relationship with the city he's from. Tell us a little. First of all, what is it about the city you think that I think it was in your bio maybe or a previous interview, but it was like we wouldn't be who we are if we weren't rooted in Edmonton. And I'm just curious, like, what's the scene like there? What is it about the place that is so integral to what you guys do?
It's a pretty special place. Like, definitely a love-hate thing for sure. Like, but it's pretty tight knit because it kind of has to be. There's tons of bands and lots of artists, so everyone kind of comes out to each other's shows. But there's not a lot of industry there, so people. I think it keeps people honest because you're doing. No one's kind of hoping to. Like, there's no one to sell out to, so no one's really trying that hard.
Oh, nice.
So, but yeah, it's pretty special. But it's definitely informed where we're from. Like, just being from Western Canada and like. Just the landscape and the history there, like, it just works its way into our songs. It's like it's day-to-day life for us. So you want to write what you know and what you understand. So for us, that's Edmonton. Like, that's home.
This might be tough because I guess it's kind of like buttering your own bread. But Jen from Listen Harder, who does publicity for you guys, she was actually telling me when we were talking about you that she's had a pretty easy time working the record because it's like in a lot of cases people are coming to her and it's like, or when they get a hold of it, people are into it and she doesn't have to push too hard. Yeah. Have you found, like, since the latest one came out, or are things like, it seems like you got a good amount of momentum going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I don't know that I have the total perspective of that. Like, honestly, when we finished the record, we were so exhausted from it, and we were like, "What have we done? Like, did we make a huge mistake with this?" But a few days later, that wears off, and we were like, "Wow, this is something that we did that we're proud of." So, I mean, just having a really good team with New Damage and Jen working behind us has definitely made things easier, and yeah, there's like a bit of momentum building. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, honestly.
With that, what's on the horizon for you guys? I mean, the record's out. Second half of 2014.
Well, we're going to do the rest of it. Dallas teaches, so we always, when he has spring break, we do the West, and then in the summer, we do the rest of Canada. So we'll be back out this way in July. And then some more stuff on the cook, but we'll have to wait and see what pans out. But just more and more touring and stuff, just getting out there and meeting people.
Bang on. What's the site? Where can people check out and keep abreast of what's happening?
Slatesband.ca is our website, but we're on all the usual suspects, Twitter and Facebook and all that jazz.
Yeah, bang on. Taiga, Prairie Fires before it. Badass releases. A big fan. Appreciate having you join us.
Yeah, thanks a lot.